In this video, we're talking about employment contracts, part 1, and this is for 9-10 commerce employment issues. In this video, we're going to look at a number of issues. The first thing we're going to look at is the idea about what is an employment contract. And we're also going to look at the types of employment contracts that exist in Australian workplaces. And these are the awards, enterprise agreements, and common law contracts. So these will be the issues that we'll be covering. So before we start, let's get on to some key vocab. An employment contract. Now, an employment contract is a legally binding formal agreement between an employee and an employer. It's pretty straightforward. We just need to know it. An award is a type of contract that outlines an employee's minimum pay and conditions. What you should do is you should get rid of this apostrophe here because that's not needed. So the award outlines an employee's minimum pay and conditions. It's that type of contract that sets out the minimums. If we look at an enterprise agreement, an enterprise agreement are agreements about pay or conditions that are made at a whole business level. They're not about minimum pay or conditions, they're about the conditions at one business or at a group of businesses. A common law contract is slightly different. A common law contract is when an employer and an individual employee negotiate one contract about pay and conditions. So we can see we've got the types of contracts and then we're looking at all of their particular elements. One thing that is also useful to know in terms of your vocab is a union or a trade union. Now, a union is a group that is dedicated to promoting the rights of workers. They fight for the rights of workers. So in terms of our key vocab, we don't have to understand all of this just yet, but these are the words that we need to add to our vocab list to get an understanding about this topic. So let's start with the basics. We've got employment contracts. Okay, so we know a contract is about entering into an agreement with someone, which is formal, which is legally binding. When we are talking about employment contracts, we're entering into a contract between an employee, the worker, and employer, the business. There are a number of elements to this. So what do you agree to give the employer as part of a contract? Well, in terms of a worker, you agree to give your time and your effort, hopefully your hard work as well. If we think about what are employers, so let's just section that off there. What do employers agree to give employees? Well, they agree to give a wage, money, and also conditions or entitlements. So it's part of the contract. You as an employee agree to give your time and effort, and employers agree to give you money and conditions. My C's are not very neat. So what are the features of a typical contract, an employment contract? Well, an employment contract has 3 important features. So there is an offer. So in terms of the offer, that this is the offer made by the employer. And so this is the kind of things that, what is the role? What is the wages or pay? What are the conditions like? So the offer is made. The offer, which is in the contract. Acceptance. So in terms of the acceptance, this is all about what you do in terms of the offer. So in terms of the offer, do you say yes to the contract or do you say no to the contract? So this is the acceptance of the contract. Now, so we've got an offer is made, there's an acceptance, and then there's a final part to a contract, which is known as the consideration. So the consideration is all about the benefits to all parties. So the consideration for a worker from a contract is in terms of the pay. And the consideration for an employer is that they get your effort and time at the workplace. So an employment contract has these three things. An offer is made, acceptance, yes or no, and the consideration works to both parties, all parties involved in the contract. So if we look now at the types of employment contracts, and you can see that this is coming from Chapman and Freak 2013, that there are three types of employment contracts, and you can remember these a little bit from the vocab list. So there is the award, and the award is all about the minimum pay and conditions. I have an enterprise agreement, which is at like a business level. And then I have these common law contracts, and these common law contracts are all about contracts between individuals and a business. So we're going to go into a bunch of depth about each of these. So the first type of contract is an award. An award is a document that sets out the minimum terms and conditions for a particular job. So the idea of an award is that they cover employees across Australia who work in the same occupations, same industries, and apply in most workplaces. But the key thing is that the award's all about, they set out the minimum pay and conditions. So the award is setting out the minimum that someone can get. In terms of awards, awards cover a whole bunch of things. So you can see that awards cover rates of pay, sure. They also cover if you work overtime or on weekends. But can you see they cover a whole bunch of other conditions and entitlements as well? So the award sets out all of these different things for people that work in similar occupations or industries. So this is the nature of the award. And when we think about an award, what you should be doing is think about, okay, award, it sets out the minimums that someone can receive for a job. If we then think about, well, what's good about an award and what's bad about an award? Well, awards help protect workers from being exploited. Why? How do they do that? Well, because they set minimums. Companies can't pay less than the award. Apologies. Companies can't pay less than the award or offer less than the award. So they're a level of protection. And also the award sets out the minimum pay and conditions. So we can't go below these. So there's a strong link between these 2 points. Disadvantage of an award is that it can be inflexible. It can't be changed. These minimums can't be changed. And also, if everyone gets the same pay and conditions, then if I work harder, well, I'm not going to get any extra money or conditions. So why would I try harder? So it could offer no incentive for individual effort.